Szanowni Państwo, witamy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome after the break. We are going to listen to Tomasz Grodzki, the Speaker of the Senate of the 10th term. He will talk about the values of the Third Republic of Poland. He is the senator of the 9th term, professor of medical sciences, thoracic surgeon and transplantologist specializing in lung transplantation. A graduate of the Faculty of Medicine of the Pomeranian Medical University in Szczecin. Between 2003-2004, he headed the European Society of Thoracic Surgeons. He was the first Pole to be admitted to the American Association for Thoracic Surgery. From 2006 to 2015, he was a councillor of the Szczecin City Council. Welcome to the Freedom Games. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is an honor and privilege for me to share with you some of my findings from the point of view of a human, of a doctor and speaker of the Senate. My lecture is divided in 3 parts. I'm going to talk about the values of the Third Republic of Poland after the night of communism, what we did with them, and what we can improve, what we can do in order to turn them into the foundation of the future development of our beloved country. Looking at the history, we learned that the Third Republic of Poland brought plenty of hope for Poland and for Europe. These were the Poles. This was the solidarity movement which determined the shape of Europe. We became the island of freedom. The walls were demolished and the dominance of one empire over a half of the world ceased. Many countries followed into our footsteps and regained their sovereignty and independence. It happened owing to the Poles, owing to the efforts of our nation. We have the right to be proud of it, and we should be proud of it, because our leaders, including Lech Wałęsa, changed the image of the world. There were many fathers, many creators of the success, including citizens of the country, such giants of this world as President Reagan, John Paul II, but we have to clearly state that but for Poland, it wouldn't have happened. But this entailed a kind of naive conviction that democracy and capitalism are going to do everything for us. People were optimistic and we thought that everything would be good. At the beginning of our transformation, before some bad temptations of rolling down in the cloudy waters of capitalism, which trembled the foundations of the Republic of Poland being born. Poland managed to tackle the problem. Everybody was optimistic, but objectively speaking, especially after we joined the EU, we experienced some improvement in our lives. Perhaps it did not apply to everybody, not to an extent that we would expect. However, looking at it and evaluating how our lives changed, what prospects our children and our grandchildren are going to have, we can be really proud of the 30-year period, despite the fact that not everything went on as we expected. But before we move on to the second part of my speech, we have to mention what the Third Republic of Poland brought. It gave us freedom, not only the sense of freedom, but objective freedom, when we were finally able to decide upon our lot. We were finally able to free from the chains of communism. Many people were suffering in the communism. Some even lost their health and life in a dramatic way. Freedom was the greatest contribution made in the creation of the Third Republic of Poland. Hence, what went wrong, we can ask? What contributed to the situation that after this period some people feel dissatisfied, that the demons of fundamentalism, xenophobia started to emerge, including demons of brutality? Let us consider that perhaps we did not understand that this is not a magic wand of the free market, but industrious work of each of us will build Poland. Perhaps we made a wrong assumption thinking which model to follow, whether we should follow the European model with extended social programs and certain stability, or the free market American model with the institution of a self-made man and unlimited possibilities. We were running to and fro from one option to another, which entailed subsequent troubles. We lost the moment when the dark side of our reality started to emerge. Fundamentalism digging trenches, separating our citizens from the level of the family to the level of the government, sowing the seeds of hatred. We can only regret that we had not responded, that we were not able to ensure that the young generations understand that the European community, that the European civilization is not a cash machine for those who do dirty business, but this is a community of values which we should share and in which Poland should be immersed because of its proud 1,000 years history as the durable element of the global community. This is something that we missed, especially because all these processes have accelerated within the period of last 5 years. It is the example that comes from the highest level. We should not explain it by the government doing what they assume. The bad will is a bad will, and explaining that we do it all for the benefit of the nation, just as we can see here, the attempts to veto the European budget or the attempts of hidden poll exit. Such explanations are tricky and they are not good. We have to confess that we committed a sin because many of us are lured by this vision to adopt what has been happening recently in Poland. If somebody does not agree with our mindset, they can be offended, they can be laughed at, and we think that they either agree with us or they are our enemy. This contradicts the deepest idea of democracy, the deepest idea of dialogue and positive argument. This is a road to nowhere. Those who are going to take over after this government have to remember that, because otherwise we'll do the same. We'll do what they do, but from the other side. If we say we now, this is not the slogan, this is a road to perdition, this is not the way we build mature European society. It is important to remember that those people who were lured by freedom should not abuse freedom, that they should defend freedom, that they should cultivate freedom and defend it and nurture it. This is still ahead of us. So following this diagnosis and analysis, we should ask a question: how can we repair it? How can we mend it? The answer seems simple. I repeat it over and over again. We should rebuild the fundamental rules of democratic society, such as the rule of law, respect for other people, respect for every human being, understanding that everybody has the same rights and the same obligations, that we are all humans, and regardless of our diversity, we owe the same respect. We have to understand that the diversity of the nation is not a disadvantage, but advantage, because creativity follows diversity, and progression and development follows creativity. It is all followed by innovation and balanced development of our society. We have to understand that the clashes of opinions in democratic debates, it's the only way to avoid a certain outflow or drifting towards dictatorship. We have to understand what Professor Bartoszewski said: it is worth being decent. These are not empty words. Freedom lets you do a lot, but being decent means you sometimes refrain from doing some things, and this is extremely important. An open dialogue is the only way to elaborate in a strenuous process very good solutions. Churchill said that democracy is the worst system, but no one has ever invented a better one. And that's true. If there is no democracy, we'll have dictatorship, authoritarian rule, and ruling by bad people. People expressed already what they think about the ruling party. The Speaker of the Senate, who is supposed to use decent language, should not express it in the same way. Please do apologize and leave. Thank you very much.
Panie Marszałku, bardzo dziękuję.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your important speech presenting the three perspectives. You were talking about the values where freedom is of key importance. So the temperature of the dispute in Poland is rising when we are talking about the freedom and the freedom of respecting our rights. This will have incredible impact on our social and economic rights. To all of us, disputes in Poland have reached a high level of complexity, and many people are asking the following question. I would like to ask you this question. What is the dispute in Poland about? The dispute in Poland is about the fundamental values. We are in a crossroad, and we either drift towards dictatorship of the East, or we will come back as a proud 40 million nation that will return to the family of the free world. We are such a nation, but in the past, when we were a major partner, now we are enfant terrible. We are a troublesome child, naughty teenager. That is why So we need these fundamental values of democracy, the rule of law, respecting human rights. Economy is of secondary importance. It's the nations that decide about the welfare. So these are the key years for Poland. And the nearest election, probably not earlier than in 3 years' time, will determine which direction Poland will move, which Poland will be left for our children and grandchildren. And this is of key importance. I would like to assure you that the Senate, which sometimes is called the island of freedom, so the Senate will make sure that Poland will remain the country where freedom, the rule of law, democracy, respect for anyone will be treated seriously. Mr. Speaker, today, during the speech, during the start of the protests of the women's strike, you said that the Senate will be happy to perform the function of the mediator of this dialogue. Today you are talking about the differences of the language used by the women, by the protesters. You are talking about the language we should be using in the parliament. So I would like to ask you, how do you imagine this dialogue? How can we agree the aspects that seem not to be the subject of agreement? I am an optimist. I am a surgeon. In my job, very often I had to deal with a situation that used hopeless. This is when we were trying to rescue patients' life. It was very difficult. It was very exhausting and emotional, but there is no other way. Giving up means the victory of the forces of darkness. I am in touch with the leaders of the women's strike. We have reached a stage when the opposition, the parliamentary opposition and non-parliamentary opposition, the self-governments, NGOs, free citizens, everybody, all together, we need to search for a solution of the problem in which Polish politics is in. And the Senate, that is called the Chamber of Reflections, is a good place to start this dialogue. I have been trying to remind that in 1989, at one table, we had oppressors and victims, people who were blaming one another, but they could understand that they have to overcome their personal feelings and emotions to save Poland, the Republic of Poland, which was in a much more tragic situation. So we have to follow this word. We have to attempt to start this dialogue, to build a new perspective for the Republic of Poland. And this will be the only solution. Otherwise, I do not want to be a prophet, but if we do not manage to achieve this, it will be a dark future. So we all have to do anything to make sure that it is avoided. You are very right saying that the protests, the resistance of the nation, as you have called it, cannot be ignored. It's about much broader aspects, about something which was a spark to start the protest. So it's this ruling of the Constitutional Tribunal. So I'm asking you, as both the speaker and the professor, a physician, what kind of a solution do you see to resolve this issue, the issue of abortion? Because as a matter of fact, we can hear different opinions. People are saying that we cannot go back to the abortion compromise. It's no longer a valid option. It's not possible. So what is an optimum solution to you? I would like to remind you that the Senate has an honor to cooperate with a team of the best lawyers in Poland, people who monitor the constitutionality of reforms. So we received a very detailed report from this team, a report on the ruling of Mrs. Przyłębska. And there is only one conclusion. For many reasons, the judges who are not real judges, Judge Pawłowicz, who used to be an applicant. So this ruling is not existing. There is no such verdict. So this is the legal situation of this verdict. That is why the abortion compromise that was reached 20 years ago is binding. Compromises are always difficult, but for 27 years this compromise has been working. If we are to elaborate a new compromise, it has to occur with involvement of all the parties, because the expectations of radicals, so abortion as a wish, or the ban, the complete ban on abortion, will have to be the subject of a very long dialogue. I am the Speaker of the Senate, and to me there is no verdict, and I think that the compromise, the previous compromise, is still binding. We will see where it will take us. And the last question, you were referring to the Senate. You used this term on many occasions, so you called it the land of good hope. So do you perceive this? Do you perceive this role for the Senate in the future? Is the Senate going to have a progressing role, or a stopping role? It's an honor for me. I am honored that I am the leader of the Senate. So, democratic majority is in the Senate, but there are also the senators of the Law and Justice Party, and we are trying to elaborate some solutions with them. It's a great honor to me. The Senate will never be a stopping institution that will be putting brakes on. So we have we have managed to keep Poland's face when we had this plan of election by voting by post. We were all saying that these votes would be just leaflets distributed by postmen. The fact that during many moments we were trying to introduce some order among the government. So, for example, talking about the remuneration for the medics working on coronavirus pandemic. So we made the remuneration equal. The parliament has approved it. The president has signed that law. This law is very important for the medics. So now we have been working very hard, but the legislative center has not endorsed it, and this is a real blame. So the Senate will always make sure that the fundamental values are achieved. Frycz Modrzewski used to say that Senate is a body that fights for important matters, but tries to keep emotions quite low. We will follow the route of democracy, freedom, the rule of law, and respect for the humans. Thank you very much for these words, which are very important declarations that keep our hopes. So thank you very much for your speech. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Speaker, during Freedom Games. So thank you warmly for this. And at 7:30, we will have another meeting with Professor Timothy Garton Ash. Magdalena Baran will be